you should be looking to lower defenses before you raise buying acceptance. And people try to sell a product before they sell themselves. And it's a big issue in sales because they're buying you long before they're buying your service.
All right. Welcome to the Aussie Ambitions podcast. We've got a guest today. It's Ryan Tuckwood. Hi, Ryan. How are you?
I'm fantastic. You?
Excellent. Very good. So Ryan's from a company that he's co-founded, which is SWISH Sales Coaching. And it's just got some interesting perspectives on life here in Australia and internationally as well. So I'll just introduce you, Ryan. Could you take us through a little bit? We've pulled you in here today. What have you been working on these days?
We're working on the main mission, I guess, if you want a real kind of helicopter view, is changing the perception of sales. That's what we do. As an organization, our mission is to show people a different view of what is a tarnished industry around sales and communication. So working heavily on that day to day within the business. Also working on trying to be a good father to my two boys, Maverick and Fox, and trying to balance whatever that work-life balance is between the two, if that exists.
Nice one. Well, you've already hit some of the keywords, so balance and working on a specific thing that's sort of time bound and like in the moment. So like here we are, 2021. Is your routine sort of like, let's just touch base on like a typical day for you. Let's start there. So is it something where you're outbound and meeting people, interacting with people, or is it more, let's say, planning and at a desk?
Very structured would be the immediate answer to that. So I'm very routinely, I've learned a lot from some of our investors over the years about juggling and balance, or what is now we term as counterbalance. So you're either all doing this or you're all doing that. I'm either all at home with my family or I'm all at work in the office. I'm not trying to juggle two or three things at the same time. So my day is I'll be up by 4:30, 5 o'clock, pretty standard. That's just the boys will wake me up. I will then get some time with them. I usually take both the boys downstairs, have breakfast whilst Alicia has a shower and gets ready. Come back up, get changed, get ready for work myself. Be in the office for 7:15. That's my clarity time. Checking on emails. 8:02 is our morning meeting time. I was told once that if you have it at an odd time, everybody remembers it. We've had nobody late for a morning meeting since we changed it from 8 o'clock till 8:02. That's the first tip for you. We go 8:02 till 8:17, quick 15-minute daily huddle. I then do a sales morning whip for 15 minutes. We then do role play. I then have strategy time for 45 minutes, and then I'm into coaching for the day. So I'm either coaching our corporate clients or our academy members, usually via Zoom. So you said, am I out on the road? Not as much on the road anymore for obvious reasons. Prior to that, I would have been on a plane every 2 or 3 days. But so coaching, strategy, creative, so doing podcasts, interviews, creating new content for the academy. And then I have a daily wrap at the end of the day. And then 5:30 till 8 o'clock is family time. No exceptions. And then 8 o'clock until 11 o'clock is back on the computer, going through admin and catching up on everything in the day.
That's wonderful.
There you go. That's a daily routine.
Well, you answered the question.
Yeah.
And then so that would be like a Monday to Friday. The weekends, does that switch it up a bit?
Weekends is family time as much as possible. So Saturdays, I've got a personal trainer 4 times a week. I've just engaged about a month ago. I've always struggled to put weight on. I've always been a bit of a skinny bugger. And I guess as I've grown and become more vulnerable in my older age, I've become aware that was something that bothered me. So I've engaged a personal trainer, a guy called Andy Jin from Body Science, if I'll do him a little plug.
Body Science, yeah.
And he's an absolute legend. So he comes to me 5 a.m. Saturday morning, and then 3 times throughout the week. And so I do that on a Saturday. And then I've got football for Maverick, where he goes a little soccer practice. And then it's just family day there on in. Seems to be lots of 1-year-olds and 2-year-olds birthday parties at the minute.
Yeah, and those are pretty intense as well.
Yeah. It's not the sort of parties like I used to go to.
Good stuff. Yeah. Well, look, I mean, so there's a certain life stage where I think you've settled into this. Is that a new construct? This sort of you get on Monday to Friday. It's quite tight. How you got that? Is that a new sort of framework, or has it always been part of your, how you've built up? And
I guess I have tried to build that into my life, but I struggled to stick to it in respect of I struggle to say no to people, to different opportunities. And in the early stages of business, especially, I don't think I knew my worth and the value on my time. So I was out coffees for coffees, meetings for meetings, as opposed to being really productive in my day. So now it's very much set in stone that this is what I'm doing every minute of every hour of every day. When we first started the business, when me and Jack went 2 years, 7 days a week, 14-hour days, no holiday. So there was no structure there. It was just turning the wheels, making lots of mistakes, just trying to keep afloat. So now, I guess the success is that I've been able to free myself up for weekends, and I can leave at 5:30, and the team are still working, and there's still money being made, even though I'm not there. So a lot more structured these days.
Yeah, nice. I mean, I'll actually just say congrats on that. I don't know if you celebrate those moments, but I feel like those are achievements. Do you feel like that's an achievement? It's an itself?
Yeah, I do. And I talk about this a lot. I don't think people do look back often enough to celebrate what would be an achievement, is to get yourself away from working 14, 15-hour days, which some people wear that as a badge of honor, and it's not always a good thing. Like when, after that 2-year spell at the start, the first holiday I had, we went before the kids, me and Alicia went to Bali, and we were 2 days into that trip, and we made a conscious effort in the morning, because we own a hair salon as well together, and it was, let's stop talking business, let's enjoy the holiday, and we did, and we went for breakfast, and then 11 o'clock in the morning, we were walking through the restaurant, and I just collapsed. Had this fit, and I woke up and I'm in the middle of this restaurant, and I was foaming at the mouth and had this oxygen tank on me and all these people around me. And I have no idea what had happened. And apparently I said to Alicia, I was going to go to the bathroom, and I walked off and just collapsed like a yard from the table. And the doctors, there was nothing wrong with me. They just said that you've got all this built up stress and emotion of 2 years of going full pelt that you actually couldn't handle stopping. And it just caused me to just stop.
Jeez, that's
physically.
Pretty drastic.
So yeah, I mean, it was a good shot in the arm to say, hey, you can't continue doing that. And even as we spoke about previously, me and Alicia getting ill again this year, like there was a combination of, even though 2020 with COVID was actually a really good year for our business, it's undeniable there's a level of stress there, and you're trying to navigate new waters that we'd never done before, and I certainly hadn't done as a business owner. So there's like a subliminal level of stress there that I didn't really realize, and then eventually it's just going to come out with you getting sick. So yeah, definitely trying to think about health and be aware of that a lot more this year. This is a real focus for me.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. Even just the long hours, I can relate to it, and I look out for it to see. Sometimes there's an advantage, because sometimes you need to just go the hard yards to get something started. Like, this is that entrepreneur mindset, and
yeah.
There's some cliches, good and bad, about it. But was that part of it? Was just actually the need? Like, if you did not put in those hard moments, would the business be in a different position?
Yeah, I think it would. In the respect of, I remember being some weeks we were in 50 Cavill Avenue, which, if you know, in Surfers Paradise, we first business, first office, most expensive real estate on the Gold Coast. Right. Stupid decision, right?
Right.
And I remember being in there on a Saturday morning, needing to make a sale. Like, we can't pay the rent this week, so we're staying until we make a sale. Like, we're just not going home, otherwise we can't pay the rent. So in that respect, yeah, we needed to do it. But could we have been more efficient in our days that we didn't need to work on a Saturday? Probably, because we were doing all of the fringe stuff that new business owners do that they think is valuable, and they're getting business cards printed, and they're working on socials and everything, which is fantastic, and you definitely need to do it. But one thing I'm a big believer of is, in the early stages of business, you need to be spending a disproportionate amount of your time generating revenue, because it doesn't matter how good everything else is. If you haven't got any money coming through the door, you can't sell a secret, right? You're not going to get it anywhere. So, and then we fell into that trap a little bit as well, even as salespeople. So it was like, head down, let's just sell, let's just make money and make sure we keep these doors open.
Yeah, that's, and what I was looking for is, and I'm actually investigating wider across Australia, like how much of it is cultural, in that, what I feel like is that people, if you're working longer hours, culturally, I feel like that's a little bit frowned upon. Like it's sort of a bit antisocial and so on. Did you feel any of that?
Yeah, I did a little bit. I mean, Jack, the co-founder, and I, we're both British, and we're both brought up from a very humble background. Jack was brought up on a housing commission estate. My mum was a cleaner. Dad worked in a factory. So Jack's more of an natural entrepreneur than I was, but certainly no business ambition in my eyes. So for my friends and people that hadn't seen that side of me before, I've changed, right? All of a sudden I'm working all these hours, and if you don't have that, if you don't have like the mission and the why you're doing it, and they don't truly understand why we were doing it, then it can just look like you're just trying to make loads of money. And I think that's what's frowned upon. You're just working your ass off just to make loads of money. Whereas for us, it was way bigger than that. It was about finding people that were struggling in an industry of sales that didn't need to struggle, because there can be an easier way. And we knew that the more hours that we put in now, the more people we're going to be able to impact further down the line. And that definitely came to fruition. Again, what we spoke about earlier with Shark Tank in 2018, and we definitely wouldn't have the numbers of clients that we'd had or have assisted the amount of people we have if we hadn't done that, I don't think.
Yeah, very cool. I mean, that does bring us a bit full circle in terms of the how you're helping people, and the sales coaching. Is that a good summary for your business, or is it more broad than that?
I think it's a good summary. I mean, we rebranded in October after 6 years on our 6th birthday. We rebranded from, originally we were IS Recruitment, and then we were ISR Training and Recruitment, then ISR Training, and now we're SWISH Sales Coaching. And I think for a long time, even though we were trying to change the perception of sales, we also weren't screaming about that in our name. So it was like, let's put it out there, right? With this, we get so many clients that don't want sales training because they don't want to be seen as salespeople. But the whole ethos behind what we're doing is that you should be proud to learn this skill. It's one of the most noble skills you can ever attain, because if you're truly offering somebody value in what you offer, then you're doing them a disservice by not having the skills to articulate that value. So you owe it to your clients to learn these skills. So yeah, I think it is a good summary, but having said that, it has evolved a lot over the years. Some of our clients now, maybe 30-40% of our clients are not in sales. They're in customer service, they're in HR, they're in client retention, conflict resolution. It's more about communication skills, mindset, goal setting, purpose, to get you right in the right space to actually make sales and be successful in business.
Very cool. Yeah, so like you said, it touches businesses, probably even individuals at some point, of people. Like there's a lot of people with their own brand and emerging. And so it's not just large scale corporations that you're supporting. There would be a whole spectrum. Is that right?
Yeah. I mean, the larger businesses have only really come in the last 2.5-3 years. Since Shark Tank gave us a lot of credibility, we invested a lot of money into the online training to, I guess, have the belief that we could live in that world and offer a service that is corporate, for want of a better phrase, which has worked. But what I never wanted to do was let go of those individual business owners that we've been helping over the years. Because we touched on this, when I first started the business with Jack, I had no background. I had no sales background, no business background, sorry. And I had nobody to go to. I didn't know who to get advice from. So we definitely still want to be there for those people that are owner operators, one-man bands or one-person bands, you probably have to say these days, that just want a bit of direction. Maybe they want the confidence or the skills to be able to break down what they actually do and communicate that to the market.
Yeah, I mean, this topic is super interesting to me because I'm always looking at skills and how people learn and apply and then go from there. Is it the type of thing that it's like riding a bike? You'd learn it and then it would stay with you so that you could just apply it in new ways and adapt? Yes and no, right? There's two parts to it. So is it transferable to any industry? Yes. So we've coached 160 industries, from earwax cleaning to automotive insurance. The industry doesn't matter. 80% of what we teach is identical, which I know people don't want to hear, but it is. It's just communication skills. Can you do it once and it will stay with you for life? No. So I always say training isn't something that you did. Training is something that you do. So we as an organization, we role play 4 times a day. We practice word tracks and language patterns 4 times a day. And when I say practice, that's like 3 minutes. It's 3 minutes up, grab a partner, and away you go. What's your intro? What's your elevator pitch? I'm not interested, can't afford it. Let me think about it. I'm going to go use somebody else. What's your instant response to that question? And making sure that it's there and it's on point, but you can do it in an authentic manner that doesn't jeopardize your own morals or turn you into a robot. Yeah, no, this is good stuff, because I think people will hear sales and they'll sort of have a preconception of what that like, or even a sales role.
Yeah.
I'm not a salesperson, or I am a salesperson, and all this. I was trying to reflect on that, and you talked about role play. That's immediately struck a memory where my experience with some level of sales training was role plays, and it was absolutely terrifying.
Yeah, I hate it.
To be put on the spot, but it's like a simulation, so it's how it would be.
What I don't understand is, right, you're a marketer, right? You help businesses drive leads into their organization, and they pay money to do that, right? So if you imagine, and if you're a salesperson listening to this, or you're somebody dealing with an inbound inquiry of some sort, somebody somewhere along the line has paid money to at least advertise, promote, get in front of, get the attention of that person that's ringing you or making an inquiry. How dare you practice on them? Like live, you're literally just throwing money away. And I use a lot of sporting analogies. You wouldn't go out onto a pitch before you play football without warming up, because you're going to pull muscles and you're going to get injured. In our world, pulling a muscle is the equivalent of somebody saying, "Yeah, mate, not interested," or "Call me back later." That's because you didn't warm up. It's because you didn't learn to preempt that objection before it even arises. So yeah, we have to practice, we have to role play, and we have to do it daily.
So just to reinforce that point, like again, it sounds like there's a process and a system that maybe some systems work better than others. But essentially it's the preparation, and just maybe it's the anticipation of just that social interaction. So like you said, you're doing a disjustice to the customer if you're not conveying the value, just to reinforce that. Yeah.
I mean, if you look at, let's say you're a chiropractor and you get somebody come in for a consult, and you're the number one chiropractor in the world. Like, you've had the best training, you've been working with the best of the best, you're amazing at what you do. But for some reason, that person walks out of that consult and says, "I'm not going to use your services," because for whatever reason, they just didn't feel it. They didn't get a connection. It didn't feel right to be with you. And they go and they use another chiropractor that is substandard. They're not as good as you. They're not going to get them the same results. You've now subconsciously just had a detrimental effect on that person's life, because you didn't have the ability to articulate what you do for a living. And that happens in every industry. Tradespeople, somebody calls you up over the phone and they ask you, "Mate, how much is it for XYZ?" And you just give them a number. All of a sudden, you're only communicating numbers against your competition. You're not building a relationship. So how can you stand out? And standing out doesn't mean you have to be the cheapest. So there's people left, right, and center that are just missing out on business. 65% of businesses go under in 3 years and 95 in 5. Horrible stats. And it doesn't need to happen. It doesn't need to happen.
That is super useful. And I'm thinking, again, the clients I've been working with over the number of years is healthcare clients, services, and your optometrists and medical centers and dentists and so on. And you wouldn't normally, the word of selling something, or it's not about that. It's about treating a patient, or like you said, chiropractic.
100%.
And so it's such a foreign thing. And I feel like there's lack of acceptance, and maybe it's an education. Is it educational? Is that the step?
It is. Yeah. It's, and that's that perception piece, right? I mean, we coach heaps of people in the health space, like a company called Healthier, who are ASX listed. They own like My Foot Doctor and literally chiropractors and podiatrists. And then, Back in Motion, physiotherapists that are based all around Australia. Same sort of thing, right? They're not sales people, but they are selling to people. You're selling it. My wife's a hairdresser. She's in sales because she doesn't do the service for free. Somebody pays her to do it. So if they say, "How much is a balayage?" and she says, "Well, it's $350," and they go, "That's too expensive." That's because she didn't have an ability to communicate the value of what she offers. So, yeah, I think it's key. Like we learn to communicate what we offer, because if we flip that around and forget selling, think about day-to-day situations when you're trying to book a restaurant and you want to get a restaurant on a Saturday night, and the person on the other end of the phone tells you they're fully booked, but you promised your partner that you were going to get this restaurant for them on that night, and you don't want to go back to your partner and say, "I couldn't get it." So how much can you build rapport with that person on the phone in 10 seconds for them to find a way to squeeze you in on that Saturday night? It can be done. I did it in New York on New Year's Eve. You can get a lot more out of life when you learn to connect with people.
That's interesting. Yeah, I mean that's that personal stuff. Like I was sort of trying to get a feel for. When I think of a sales process or something like that, I think of, and being a marketer, I'm thinking about how you communicate with people, and the two words I'm thinking of is just overcoming objections. So you've got something, your intention is you want to help them. They're over here busy and they don't necessarily have the time to digest your message. But eventually you do reach out and you try to make your pitch, but then they've got a whole list of objections. And that's what I'm thinking of. Is that the biggest, meatiest part of where people need help, or is it another spot? I don't want to give away trade secrets.
I'll share everything. I'm a big fan of showing how good you are, not telling how good you are as well. But it's the biggest part of where people think they need to improve. So when we do a business diagnostic with our clients, and there's like 40, 50 different areas. What areas would you like to work on? I don't think I've ever received one back that doesn't say objection handling or closing. And very rarely do they say introductions, discovery, presentation. It's like always back end. And my belief system, after many, many years of studying buying behavior, not just selling, is that the closing is very rarely the problem. Objection handling shouldn't need to happen as often as it does if you did everything else correctly in the first place. So that's, again, as what you just said there, it's up to us to educate them on that. And they need to see us as a trusted authority and an expert to take our advice. Otherwise, all we'd be doing is objection handling training day in, day out. And that's just putting a plaster on it. Because the key is to not get the objection in the first place. Okay. So how can we understand what are the 3 common objections you're going to get and build that into your presentation? So by the time you get to the end, they're like, no, I feel like you've actually covered everything. So what do we do from here?
Yeah. Okay.
That's a more enjoyable conversation all around.
Okay. Yeah. That's where I was trying to just understand the sequence of events, and I'm thinking of it almost like a river, like an upstream, downstream type thing, where so you can kind of ease the harder stuff by just greasing the wheels a little bit earlier on. Is that it's social rapport and all this kind of stuff?
Yeah, I mean we've got a process, we call it the negotiation ladder. It's a 10-step process to creating clients for life, which starts with, again, you touched on it earlier, preparation, all the way through how do you introduce yourself. Literally, what are the first words out of your mouth, whether it be over the phone, via Zoom, face-to-face, how are you meeting and greeting? Then we go to framing a conversation. And in that frame, we have a process where we actually remove as many objections as possible in the first minute. And that could be as simple as, thank you very much for giving me a bit of your time today. Naturally, after over a decade in this industry, I know that everybody's situation is different. And a lot of people at this stage have their sales defenses up. What I need you to know is right now, I have no idea if I can help you at all. So with a couple of really quick questions, I'll be able to ascertain if I can. If not, no big deal. If I can, is it okay if I explain a few options to you on the back end? Just every sentence is intentional. Every bit of language is intentional to lower sales defenses. So you should be looking to lower defenses before you raise buying acceptance. And people try to sell a product before they sell themselves. And it's a big issue in sales because they're buying you long before they're buying your service.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. All this knowledge that you're sharing at the moment right here, it seems to me, I mean, I would consider this almost intellectual property. Is that essentially what you've built in the company? Is something, it's in a method that you have as your own? The
negotiation ladder would be, we created that, the SWISH methodology. So SWISH is twofold. It's selling with integrity, selling honestly is the mindset behind our methodology. And then we also created a curriculum that encompasses SWISH as well, which is 5 core fundamentals that we have to master to become a world-class communicator. And that is S, state of mind. The W is winning first impressions. I is identifying all different personas. The second S is securing clients for life or closing. And then the H is harnessing a world-class culture. So we know that it's way more than just objection handling, follow-up, and building rapport. There is a mindset shift that needs to take place initially. We've got people that have been in sales for 45 years. They don't want to hear from us. They don't want to learn new things. But if we can get a quick win out of them in the first week, first 2 weeks, they become your biggest advocates. So I love those people that are like, mate, what are you going to teach me? I've been doing this 45 years. I'm like, yes, here we go.
Very cool. It almost seems like you're helping with the efficiency of things. So it seems like less people having to spend their time more wisely, basically. I don't know. You can try to grind it out and persist, but what your method is essentially it's a we're meeting in the middle. Like there's a better understanding on both sides.
Yeah, there's a way to endear yourself to people that can be done over time, over the phone. You can keep pounding them via the phone, or you can utilize social media. We got 30 different ways to follow up with somebody. There's many ways to get attention from somebody and do it in the right way by adding value to them. So yeah, definitely, it's about being efficient in your process. So I never say it's about working smart, not hard. I think you got to do both. I think you can work smart and hard. And I don't know I hate saying it. I'm only 38, but I'm going to sound old as I say this. There's an entitled generation coming through, and they've all heard that we've got to work smart. So they're in on the dot, they leave on the dot. It's like, no, but I'm working smart. I'm listening to my body. It's like, okay, but you're probably not going to get where you want to go working 9 to 5. But you can, if you're prepared to go above and beyond and work really smart as well and have strategy behind it, then you're going to go all the way to the top.
Yeah. Oh, I like that you mentioned that there's different sort of walks of life and generations, perhaps. And so on. What I was thinking of was, some things would be perceived as, that'll be hard. It'll be hard to sell, or there's something about the mix of the product and the characteristics of it. Either it's a technical product. I think you said you're an engineer originally, right? Yeah. Engineer by trade. So yeah, either it's technical by nature and the sales process is quite long. It might be like 3 months long. Or you might have something that's a bit more, current generation. You might have your Instagrammers that are trying to just land some sponsors. And they're selling themselves and their stats and and that kind of thing. Do you get fascinated by case studies and just sort of figuring out, okay, well that's a new green area we haven't really touched on?
Yeah.
What's one of those that anything come to mind?
Instantly. A company called State Trustees down in Victoria. So they've been around 100 odd years, and they do deceased estates and wills and trusts. So a lot of they got 120 odd people in our program, but only 20 of them are in sales. The rest of them are in support, and they're getting. So it's a bit of a morbid topic, but imagine you've just lost a loved one and you've been left with this house. So that's a deceased estate, right? You've now taken ownership of that, but you've got 2 brothers and a sister that have also been given ownership of that. And state trustees work on the distribution and who gets what and whatever's been left in the will. And sometimes you might find out you've been left less than your brother's been given. So they're having those conversations, and they're dealing with people. The way they explained it to me initially was they could be dealing with people that have lost a loved one like this week or this day today, and they're trying to deal with it efficiently. There could be a body in the same room in a casket whilst they're on the phone to them. So it's a very interesting sale, is that they need to help them during this process and also build enough rapport and enough connection that they want to use their services to help them facilitate this process, which is quite emotional for some people. So their level of empathy and understanding needs to be next level. Their ability to build rapport with somebody that is emotionally charged is still a sale. So a large portion of their company, and I know they don't mind me saying it because we've spoke openly about it, they didn't want to do the training. They didn't want, so I'm not in sales. And now we're 6 months in and they've seen unbelievable results. They've realized that they're better communicators inside work and outside of work as well. So it's not just personal development, professional development, it's personal development as well. They're writing goals, they've got focus, they've got better structure, they're more efficient, and they're having more enjoyable conversations with what can be quite a stressful job,
Yeah, wow. I mean, like, super interesting case study, right? And then that would just be one of many across different applications. So those come to you as in, they're seeking out some help, or is there some, I'm just curious on how people discover that they need help in that area.
Sometimes it could just be one really forward-thinking team leader or manager within the company. So I believe those guys, they had a head of culture that was seeking out some communication training for their team, stumbled across us, did a bit of research, reached out. So that was an inbound inquiry. Other people they're not looking for it. I don't think too many people wake up in the morning and go, I need sales training. They know they're not making sales, but they don't even think to learn, don't think to do anything about it. So we have an outreach program every single day. Our sales guys, predominantly on LinkedIn, they will do a blast of 10 to 20 connections a day on LinkedIn, very strategic with team sales managers, team leaders, heads of departments. Send them a connection request, gets accepted. Within 24, 48 hours of it being accepted, they'll call them up. And we do what we call our egg timer call, which is just get in, get out, 2 minutes in, 2 minutes out, a little bit of value, couple of hooks, send some information, call back 2 days later, book a demonstration. So very, very tight process, but it's all value driven. So we're always giving them, I guess the same one here, right? I want to give practical tips. I don't just want it to be, hey guys, this is how good we are. This is what we're doing. Literally tell you what we're doing, because I know it works. So we have that outreach as well. And then what I like about, if I can just segue into this for a second, with the podcast and social, is once we've done that outreach, I know they're going to do professional stalking on us because we've called them out the blue. And when they do, they find an interview like this, they find social media posts, they find credibility left, right, and center. It only solidifies the chances of them picking up the phone 2 days later to have a demonstration. So that's why we do all of this around the scenes as well.
Yeah, nice one. Yeah, look, that's an absolute little toolkit that you just presented there. So LinkedIn is a platform.
Yeah.
It's got, and it was sort of a business to business environment, right?
Predominantly, yeah.
Yeah. But then, so you mentioned the podcasting, and that's a vehicle, and that's actually great that you could mention that. So we chatted about your podcast that how long you've been running a podcast? Like roughly?
Not even a year. It will be July the 6th, I think, was the first one. So it'll be a year in July. The first interview we spoke about earlier was Grant Cardone, which was in the August before. So we didn't have a podcast back then. Sorry, Grant. I alluded to the fact that I was going to interview for my podcast, but we were just sitting at a table having a chat with a microphone,
right.
Which essentially now is a podcast.
That's right.
So yeah, the first official release of the Swish Show was on July the 6th last year.
It's neat. So just mention it now. I guess it's called the Swish Show. People can just check it out on iTunes or Apple Podcasts.
Apple and Spotify. And I don't know what the other ones are.
And everywhere else, yeah.
No, Deezer. Is Deezer one? Did I make that up? What's it called?
Yeah. There's so many. But it's that easy. Literally, like it's all aggregated and pushed out. So
yeah.
And that's part of people listening into podcasts. Is if you've got as a creator, if you've got something, even if it's just your business and representing yourself, you can still get those conversations and threads, and then everything's discoverable, and it's a neat little format. Have you found that podcasting has been a positive for you?
One of the best things we've ever done, and it's a little bit annoying. I know you shouldn't look back, but I wish we'd done it 2 or 3 years sooner, because COVID forced it upon us. We had, as with everybody around the world last year, we got kind of into a lockdown format, which meant that I wasn't on a plane flying around anymore. So I'm spending more time in the office, and I'm like, we've got some time. Should we just build this studio and get it done? And I reckon we had it done in less than 2 weeks. We had it all set. And when I say we had it done, it is nothing like this amazing place. It was, we painted the walls black, put a TV on the wall, put some blackout blinds in, put some LEDs and some lights, and it was like, away we go. And it looks pretty cool, but it was, from a marketing perspective, it's one of the best things we've ever done. We've got people that come through now that have listened to either podcasts that I've been interviewed on over the last few years, or that even if I've interviewed somebody else and it's not even about me or my business, their network then get exposed to us because they share it. And we've had multiple 6 figures worth of revenue because of doing that in less than a year, easily.
Yeah, it sounds like you got to look at the trends, and sometimes things become saturated, and people are time poor, and who's got hours and hours to listen to podcasts. But it's just it's information that's in a certain format, right?
Yeah, well, it's
accessible.
I find it interesting and also a little bit strange because it's my podcast that people are listening to it. I don't know if that's just what's the word, imposter syndrome still on my journey. But to think that people are listening to it on their commute or in bed before they go to sleep, and I'll get a message easily a message a day from somebody somewhere that'll say, "Hey, I'm just listening to your podcast with XYZ. Really like that point." I'm like, I don't even remember that. I don't remember that part of the conversation. You've just pulled out a nugget of gold that I don't even remember. So good, and or they'll go, "I used this from this podcast," and it's so good.
Isn't it neat? Yeah. I like the connectedness of it, and it's sort of like, like you said, people can jump onto something and shed light on something. You're like, there is a moment there, and but like people are busy, but it's just it's almost like the connected mind, mind hive, I think they call it, where there's more people thinking, and threads of conversation. So but it's interesting to hear your experience because it's all pretty much positive. And would you talk a client into saying, look, you try a podcast and see how it goes, or
as in starting their own?
Yeah.
I've done that with heaps. Because the industry you're in doesn't matter. You can just be the thought leader in that industry. So that you don't have to be somebody that speaks on stage. You don't have to be somebody that's overly confident in front of camera. In fact, you don't even have to be on camera. You can just do the audio as well and just have it as a proper podcast. So I think it just gives you an opportunity to express the value that you have to offer without it being a direct sales pitch. So that would probably be a big lesson from when you're doing these. Don't do these to try and make sales. Do these to truly add value to the audience. And I think if you do that, the natural byproduct is that you'll get attention anyway, but you'll get the right attention. So if you listen to each of our shows, the orientation is about the guest, not about my business. Obviously, when I'm a guest, it's a bit more kind of dominant the other way around.
Yeah, that's right.
But they both work, right? And as long as even right now, as long as when I'm a guest, I'm still giving value, it benefits everybody.
This is neat. Yeah, we're getting into some interesting territory here around, again, the systems, the processes, the tools that you've got, and then there's a business to run as well. Like, I find it interesting, the balance between what's given away for free and what is sort of monetized, and like, they call it the paywall or whatever.
Yeah.
You can run a Patreon channel and have people pay to access content. Where do you find that line? How do you do? I think I've seen the membership button on your website, so you can become a member.
But yeah, so that's for the Swish Academy. So you can become a member of the Academy, which is our on-demand training program. I'm a big fan of giving away pretty much everything. Just again, like I know that there could be 10,000 people listen to this. One of them will use some of the skills. The majority, the reality is, I've stood on stage before and I've taught things at a free seminar that I teach in my high-end accelerator program, and the people that have invested $20,000, $30,000 will use it. The people that come to a free event won't. So I've got no qualms with giving away everything, because the one person that decides to use it will be the one that will get results from it, and when they get results from it, they'll come back and ask what else we've got. So I believe in 2021, or even last year and maybe 2019, we're in an era now where you just give. Your competitors are giving. I know it's not always easy, and you can't always give trials or like products away, but you can share knowledge and you can position yourself as an expert. So some of the stuff I've spoken about today, people have paid thousands of dollars for to be in our program.
I appreciate that. Absolutely.
And that doesn't bother me. What bothers me is that I just wish more people would use it, because I know that it works, and that's a frustration. So I guess that's commercially, is that right? I don't know, but it feels good for me to do that. I'd rather than say, hey, we've got a technique on how we do this, and if you want to get in, you got to join the academy.
Yeah, no, I think that's neat, and maybe there's a takeaway there for the listeners and the viewers, is that essentially it's this contribution model where you're just putting it out there, and it's almost it takes your time and your resources to put in, but beyond that, your commitment is perhaps a little bit less than maybe an intensive interactive coaching session where there's a lot of inputs that you're capturing, you're seeing the role play, right?
Yeah.
And you can advise the where they need help and that kind of stuff. So.
Yeah, well, when we do like tailored training or one-on-ones or even small groups, of course, I get an ability to then really tailor the language patterns to them. So even in this environment or with content that we put out on socials, unless it's from a live training session, which we do often put quite a bit of that out there as well, the training's conceptual anyway. So you've still got to go away, you got to do a little bit of work, you got to adapt it to your model, your processes. And people are innately lazy. They don't want to do that. They want a done-for-you model. They want me to write scripts, tell them what to do. Essentially, they probably want us to make the sales for them anyway, which we've been asked many times. So yeah, I know most people won't unfortunately use it, but for those people that do, they'll either come back as a client, or I'll get just as much fulfillment because they'll come back and they'll tell me they've used it and they've got great results and it's changed their life. So either way, I win.
Nice. You mentioned sales script just quickly there. Is that something that's are we going away from sales scripts, or it still is almost like the summary? It's a bit of a template that you would use as a starting point. Sales, because I see sales scripts maybe in the old days was like, please say this when you knock on the door.
Yeah.
What about now?
I like to think we're a bit more sophisticated now, and the reason I think we have to be is that the consumer is more sophisticated now. They know what you're doing. So I'm a big advocate for scripting and for creating structure and framework because it's a safety net. The amount of people I'll go and shadow in a consult, or I'll listen to their phone call, and then they'll put the phone down or they'll walk out, and then I'll go, how come you never told them you've been in the industry for 12 years? And they'll go, I always say that. I'm like, well, you don't. You didn't. And they go, I just forgot it today. I'm like, you forgot it because you didn't have your template. You didn't have your check sheet, or you hadn't role played it enough that it was just in your head that you had a trigger on the back end of one sentence into the next one. So for me, it's a safety net. Even at my old company back in 2013 to the day that I left, and I was the sales manager there at the time, I would still have a clipboard with my notes on it, and I'd walk around. I never looked at it. I didn't need it. I knew it. I knew my 45-minute presentation off the top of my head, but it was still there as a safety net.
Yeah, interesting. So. Oh, that's very cool. I mean, I'm sensing that you would pick up on signals. So can you, is it fresh in your mind the last time you've been sold to? Somebody's coming and selling Ryan on a new car or?
Yeah, this week. Yeah, so we're, I've got to be careful because we're going to do business with him. He's got me. But,
keep it at arm's length.
No, I'll say it. I'm going to give them the feedback anyway, because a lot of people that sell to us end up becoming our clients.
That's exactly what I thought.
It's actually really, I feel sorry for people in a way because they don't want to sell to us. And I say it a bit tongue in cheek, and I'm not encouraging you to lie, but if you ever don't want to get sold to, and somebody asks you what you do for a living, just tell them you're a sales coach, because they'll go, okay, well, you just have a look around yourself. With software that we're buying at the moment, there's a couple of little things about going back to a manager and I'll see if I can get that approved for you. I'm like, you're not going anywhere. You're not asking anybody. Just cut to the chase. What's the best deal you can do? So yeah, I see it and it's painful. It's really painful, and I don't just see it because I'm in the game. Everybody knows when they're being sold to. We, as a consuming generation, we like to buy, but we don't like to be sold to. So that's the skill: is can you navigate that interaction where you actually connect with somebody enough to be that assistant buyer that I'm sitting next to you and I'm helping you buy. I'm not sitting opposite you and selling to you, and that's the art, I think.
Yeah, no, that's. I mean, I just imagine that it's like this, this superpower that you can kind of sense it coming, and you embrace it probably.
You see people literally back off straight away. So what is it you do for a living? Out of interest, mate. I coach people just like you. I do sales training. I love it. What about you? How long have you been doing this for? Yeah, not long. Well, I'll let you have a look around.
Or would you ever do the opposite and sort of go stealth and? Come up with some mystery profession. I'm a web designer, and then watch it go through just to see.
Often you don't get asked, so if nobody asks me, I won't bring it up. So especially over the phone, and I'll let people go through it all and just see how they get on. Give them a couple of left side objections and see how they deal with it.
Yeah.
Hopefully it's recorded and then I can use it with my team for training.
Okay. Yeah, like I'm picturing the marketing equivalent of this, and we sort of deal with like funnels. I don't want to get into any jargon, but you're moving people through stages, right? So it's sort of like pre-purchase, and then even before that, there's lots of different stages. Yeah. I'm just thinking about the selling. Like, is it ever too early to start selling your business, your service, or your like if I'm a new company or I've got a new product. Should I have a certain base level of testimonials or referrals, or can you sell from an empty cart?
Yes, you can, and we have. And the clearest example I'll give you of this is we had 13 people booked onto our first ever boot camp in March 2015. Paid $12.95 a person to do a boot camp before we got into before doing the recruitment side of it. I was in 50 Cavill Avenue writing the PowerPoint as they were sitting in reception waiting. So the product was not finished. And the way we built it was to ask them what they wanted. And I think that's, in my opinion, that's the best way to build a business, is to let the market dictate what they want. So we were calling businesses, we were speaking with sales professionals and saying, hey, if you were to invest in a sales training course and you were going to invest 2 days of your time, what would you need to see in that course for you to go, that was a good use of my time? And they were like, oh, well, objection handling, obviously, how to build rapport with different personas, how to follow up. And we're like, oh, okay, amazing, cool. Write all that down and went and built the product. We knew what we wanted to teach. And Jack and I had already got this curriculum of what had turned out to be hundreds of hours worth of content, but we knew we couldn't fit it all in. So we were like, well, let's see what the market actually wants. And it just came down to, eventually it turned into that negotiation ladder that we touched on earlier, and then the 5 fundamentals of SWISH. So yeah, you can. But what I would also encourage you to do, and this is what we did then alongside that, was if possible, give your product away for free. So we did free training boot camps as well. It was predominantly of our friends. We did 3 of them, 13 people on each boot camp. And at the end of it, we asked for a video testimonial from every single one of them and asked them how much they would pay for it. And then we got a mean price of what it was. And we had 39 testimonials ready to go.
That's very cool. Yeah. Look, I mean, that's a real clear roadmap of what's possible. And I think it's one of those chicken and egg things people will make up. You hear these legacy excuses, and so on. But shift the mentality, and there's new methods and new
minimum viable product, and then let the market tell you how you refine it.
Very cool. So, I mean, we've definitely touched base on the business, the established aspect of it, and then the online training. I just wanted to get the balance between, like, online training in itself is a platform, right? So whether you're selling, you've got sales oriented content, or you've got any other content that someone else has developed, there's this whole shift, and people are learning how to use these platforms. Is that something that was a natural thing for you? Have you always had online learning as part of your?
After about 18 months, we did. Pretty quick, and it was a bit fortuitous. I was door knocking in Southport Central, and just trying to drum up businesses to take some of our trained salespeople into work from a recruitment perspective. And I door knocked in a company called Mediasphere, who are now known as Powerhouse Hub, and brought them on board as a training partner. So we trained their staff and recruited for them, and at the same time they talked us into turning our physical program into a digital program. One of the best things we ever did. Okay. So that was about 2016. We're still with them today. We are changing over now. We have outgrown that platform. So it was a bit of a shift for me because maybe it's a bit of an ego thing, but I love physical training now. I like getting in a room full of people, getting the energy going and that live interaction. But what we've realized over the years, and especially last year, because we had a huge adoption to online training for obvious reasons, was online training gives way better long-term results than one-day workshops or physical training. Because you put me in a room full of 20 people, you're going to have 20% of them, 4 of them that have done it before, they've heard it all before, they switch off, they're not listening, because I can only give you 8 hours worth of coaching. Right. That doesn't mean that we didn't have the content that they need. It's just that I couldn't get it all into one day. So by giving them an ability to access all of the on-demand training, we do AI-infused personality profiling and skills assessing when they go into the academy. So we can actually create tailored roadmaps according to their experience and their level. So now we don't miss anybody. So you get a big upside across all areas of your business as opposed to just the ones that want to engage in it.
Very cool. Yeah, I mean, that's really where we're getting into the core of relatability and transferable knowledge, because you're essentially a content creator in this in a form where you've got this content which you own, and then you can distribute it in a couple different ways.
Yeah.
And that tailoring of the training probably, but it's self-paced, right? Someone can go in at their own.
Yeah, there's guides, like some businesses, and they go through what we call SWISH Spine, which are those 5 fundamentals. And they recommend do half an hour a week or half an hour every fortnight. We do live training in there twice a week as well for quick half an hour lightning sessions. So some of them just stick rigidly to that, whereas other people are in there for 2 hours a day. They're just consuming everything, which I think can become a bit overwhelming, and you might be trying to do too many things at once. So I guess that's the self-paced nature, isn't it? Go as fast as hard as you want, or just kind of drip feed yourself over the course of I say a year, but most people, we got over 70% of people stay into year 2 and year 3. So it's not, training isn't something that you did, it's something that you do, right? And because we're constantly adding new content in there, it keeps it fresh for them as well. Okay.
And hearing you describe that, the early days of you preparing your product and putting it out there, do you reckon that people could get started with online training if they've got a seed of knowledge and creating some content? Is it just a matter of whether it's a PowerPoint or some method? Like, what do the hours look like? Hours invested to get your first product online?
As in, if they wanted to create their own product or their own online training program?
Exactly right.
I think I wasn't familiar with online programs at all. I didn't know anything about learner management systems. had no camera equipment to film high quality production, which I later realized it didn't need to be that sharp, and probably wasted a lot of time doing it. So it took us about 6 months to get it from a physical boot camp to an online program that we were comfortable with. But the reality is you could hire an amazing space like this. You could hire it out for the day, go and create yourself 10 short 10-minute videos, have it professionally edited, chopped with an intro and an outro, and you've got a course. And people will buy that course. I would always recommend creating 3 tiers and packaging. So whether it be a 6 video, a 10 video, and then a 20 video series, because we know that human beings are conditioned to get 3 quotes, and we'll always go for the middle, or 80% of people will go for the middle one. So always create 3 if you can. What is there? Kajabi. There's loads of free stuff out there that you can just get started on. I've got a good friend called Jessica Cameron. She worked with us for a year. Unbelievable performance and mindset coach. Procrastinated on getting this out for so long. She's just this week got it done. And I'm like, the longer you procrastinate, the more you're letting people suffer, because people need to hear your advice. And hopefully that was a bit of a kick that she needed.
That's good. I mean, I think that is powerful. Again, there's, finding your purpose. People are, what are they passionate about? But assuming that they're there, but they just haven't pulled the trigger on perhaps this more scalability aspect of it. Maybe they're doing the one-to-one coaching, but maybe perhaps it's not paying the bills. You just I think spread yourself too thin.
A lot of people, when we spoke about it earlier as well, people are scared of the camera, rightly or wrongly, and we'll always give you the reason that sounds good before we give you the real reason in general in life anyway. It's the same as objections. I'm going to give you the reason that sounds good. I can't afford it, as opposed to the real one. I don't trust you, or I don't believe in it, whatever it is. So when I say to you, so a lot of people, if they're taking a coaching course and they want to take it from physical to digital, they'll say, yeah, but I get a better connection with people one-on-one, or I'm better in a classroom environment. It's like, of course you are. If everybody's better in a physical environment, most people are going to create a better connection face-to-face. But if you truly wanted to impact many people, you would take this to a one-to-many sort of stance. So I guess if we get to the root cause of that, it's a fear of being on camera. It's a fear of getting it perfect. Public speaking skills, which I used to have for sure. It took me a long time to stand in front of the camera and want to put myself out there. And now I've done it, and I've done it so often. Jackson can come into me at any moment and go, hey, we need to put a piece of content. We've got nothing lined up for next week. You got 60 seconds. And I'll just point and shoot. And then he comes in, films, walks out, and then, I don't know, next week there's something on social media.
That's right.
But it's about, I know it's easier said than done, because I used to get genuine anxiety around doing it. But it definitely is a practice. Practice makes progress sort of job.
Nice one. Oh, I'm sure a lot of people are again nodding, thinking, yeah, that's an area to conquer, to get through it. Look, we definitely kept you for a bit of time. I don't want to push on too much longer, but you mentioned Shark Tank earlier. I think globally people will be hopefully familiar with that. I think there's a US version, UK definitely.
Yeah.
Was that a good experience for you?
Amazing experience. It came at a time where I was still actually pretty scared of public speaking and being in the limelight. So it wasn't something that I was overly keen on doing. My business partner at the time, Jack, was very keen on doing it, and he applied without telling me. He just let me know once we got on it. Great experience. The guys are still heavily invested in the company, so still get to speak to them on a weekly basis. They also mentor and coach on my accelerator and elite programs. So they've been amazing.
That's fantastic. Yeah. So you would have been, were you a candidate on the show, or were you a judge, just to get the dynamic of the role?
Yeah. Oh, I wish I was a judge.
Okay.
So we took our business on there, and we got investment. So we were actually the first company in Australian Shark Tank history to get 3 sharks. So we secured all 3, Steve, Andrew, and Glenn.
Very cool. Very cool. I mean, was that a moment of like a bit of an aha moment that there's some recognition there?
Couldn't have put it better. That's literally what it was for me. Because I think as a new business owner, and if you haven't been in the business world, like, you're always second guessing, is this a right idea? Is this going to work? And to think that these 3 guys who between them had started probably 100 businesses, they mentor and they coach some of the biggest businesses in the world, that they would do because after the show, they do due diligence, like, heavy on your business, which I was naive to it, all right. And they did 6 months worth of due diligence into the business, our clients, our training, and me and Jack. So at the end of it, for us to keep all 3 of them after that, and then they all go, yeah, we like it, we're in. Massive vote of confidence for sure.
That's neat. I mean, and look, and since this is the Aussie Ambitions podcast, just curious about what might be next, or how do you even go from this point forward? Is it a clear roadmap? Like you said, you've got quite a system for your day to day.
Yeah.
What about a bit beyond?
Well, I've got my big, hairy, audacious goals, both business wise and personally. I'm passionately Gold Coast. I've been here 10 years. I'm going for a visa application right now, hopefully right at the end of that, to become a permanent resident and then a citizen. And I want to put Gold Coast on the map from an Australian business perspective. We get asked a lot, are you going to move down to Sydney or Melbourne? And we're like, no, I love it here. Right? I've got young family. I don't think there's anywhere better in the world to grow up. I think we're really fortunate. So the idea that we could take this business, of which we have done already overseas, but really establish it as a credible business that is respected amongst some of the global institutions and the giants around the world, that's where we're heading.
I mean, and that would be essentially breaking new ground. It's not like has there been local role models for you to follow suit? Like, are there big business moguls here that you're networked with, or is it a new emerging sort of thing?
There's some amazing businesses here on the Gold Coast. There really is, and I think it's a bit of under the surface hub of talent that kind of gets overlooked by some of the Sydney siders or the Melbourne, and there's definitely a stigma that the Gold Coast doesn't breed talent. But I would argue I was the MC in 2019 for the Gold Coast the Australian Young Entrepreneur of the Year finals. And some of the businesses there are doing over $1 billion, and a lot of them were Gold Coast based, and they're huge companies, but they just want the lifestyle as well, so they live up here. I don't have like a sales mentor that would be Gold Coast based or really Australian based. There isn't really anybody competing with us in that space, but globally, the likes of Grant Cardone, I guess, would be the biggest or the most well-known sales trainer out there. He's definitely on our radar. He doesn't compete with us directly in the fact of the way we've structured our training and our belief system, but he's still got a lot of talent, and what he offers is very, very good. So if we can get to his sort of level and be as well-known as he is, then we'll have impacted a lot of lives.
Yeah, very cool. And I'm just thinking one step further, as you become very established with your company's brand and your personal, again, you're the face of the business to some degree, right? You're right out there. Do you see yourself becoming an investor at some point?
Yeah, in other businesses.
Yeah, perhaps it's maybe or maybe you're doing it now, but just thinking at some point, as businesses grow, you can look at areas to play in.
100%. So I've got I won't go into them, but I've got a couple of businesses that I do invest in already as well, and I've made a conscious effort to try and make sure that I'm invested where I can still offer mentorship and guidance, but it doesn't distract me from my main cause right now. So a lot of them have come through our programs, so that I get insight into why they're doing it and what they're trying to achieve. I get to see the results that they're getting firsthand, which is pretty cool. But yeah, moving forward, definitely looking to invest in more as well.
Very cool.
And me and the wife have got the hair salon as well. So
yeah, I picked that up. And how's she going?
She's good. Yeah. She's good. Yeah, she's again trying to balance motherhood and running a business and going to the gym and all of that, and like they've got a tough gig. Like they go through a lot whilst having kids. So that's a full-time job in itself, as I'm sure most people know. Yeah,
100%. Excellent. Look, Ryan, appreciate you coming on. Covered a lot of really cool topics. I think it's actually just a conversation starter because it's been a while since we've, get the business topic, you get the personal stuff and the lifestyle, and but it's fair to say I think you got this balance thing kind of to a T, to the second. Yeah, looking forward to hearing anything else. Can you just give us a mention on how people can follow you going forward, a website or some socials?
So the company website is swishsalescoaching.com. Swish is SWISH. They can connect with the company across all of the socials, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook. Probably be leading onto TikTok soon, James, as well. And then myself personally across all of the same. I am actually on TikTok, not that you would know. I don't really know what I'm doing on there. But LinkedIn would be my go-to if you've got any questions for me directly. And then Instagram, you can jump on Instagram. But I always say that's just going to get you bombarded with baby spam. I'm biased, but I think they're really cute. So you might want to have a look anyway.
Good fun. Let's get those TikTok clips happening and, just get out there. So good fun. Ryan, really appreciate you coming on. That's Ryan from Swish. And thanks again. Come back anytime.
Pleasure. Appreciate it.